My chapter presentation will be going over everything that has to do with labor unions. Now I will go into the roles of labor unions. Labor relations is the process of dealing with employees who are represented by a union. Labor unions are legally constituted groups of individuals working together to achieve shared job-related goals. These goals could be as simple as striving for a higher pay raise, looking to get better working conditions, or simply trying to get shorter hours. The next role is collective bargaining, which is the process by which managers and union leaders negotiate acceptable terms and conditions of employment for those workers represented by the unions. Now we'll go into the history of labor unions. The earliest labor unions started during the Revolutionary War. These unions were known as craft unions. Craft unions are basically groups of workers who perform common and specific skilled jobs. One of the first labor unions was created in Philadelphia in 1784. This labor union was created by shoemakers. The most significant labor unions was the Knights of Labor, which expanded its goals and its membership to include workers in numerous fields instead of one single industry. But this union would later be replaced by the American Federation of Labor. Now we'll go over the legal acts. National Labor Relation Act was passed in 1935, which administers most labor laws in the United States. It's also in this present day known as the Wagner Act. The National Labor Relations Board is an act which was established by the Wagner Act, which basically does everything the Wagner Act does. It just changed the name. That's all it is. The next act is the Labor Management Relations Act, which is also known as the Taft and Hartley Act. This act was passed in 1947 as a response to public outcries against a wide variety of strikes in the years following World War II. Basically, this act was passed to limit union practices. And the last act is the Landgraf-Griffin Act, also known as the Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act, which focused on eliminating various unethical and illegal and democratic union practices. Now we'll go into the process of creating a union. There are 5 steps that must be followed to unionize. The first step is to find an interest in joining a group. The second step is to the National Labor Relations Board is asked to define a bargaining unit, which is the employees who are eligible for representation by the union. The third step is next 30% of the eligible workers must sign authorization cards, and if organizers cannot get that percentage, then the whole process is over. The fourth step, now the organizers must petition the NLRB to conduct an election. The majority of the votes must approve the union certification, or the process basically ends. And the fifth step, finally, if the union becomes certified, then its organizers create a set of rules and regulations. And then this is just basically a little picture that shows the process of unionizing. Decertification is just as a union can be created, easily can be decertified. There are 2 conditions that must be met in order for this to happen. First, no labor contract can currently be enforced. Second, the union must have served as the official bargaining agent for the employees for at least 1 year. Now going to collective bargaining process. The goal of the collective bargaining process is to produce an agreement on a contract that will define employment relations for a specified time. There are 2 items in this process. they are mandatory items and permissive items. Mandatory items are items that, are wages, working hours, and benefits. Permissive items are included in collective bargaining if both parties agree. Now we'll talk a little bit about impasse. An impasse is a situation in which one or both parties believe that reaching an agreement is not possible. The objective is to force the other side to alter or redefine its bargaining so that an accord can be reached. Unions use strikes as a weapon so that they can try to force their organizations to change the mandatory items, usually to try and raise wages or salaries. And this is basically just a slide continuing what I was just talking about. Gives a little examples of boycotting and, different examples of what people do in emphasis, like boycotts and strikes. And these are just pictures of past boycotts and strikes. In efforts to end an impasse, management used tactics such as lockouts and mediation and arbitration. Lockouts is when the employer does not allow the employee to enter the premises of the workplace. Mediation is when a third party is involved to try and settle the dispute between the two parties. And technology has definitely had an effect on labor unions. One main reason is that technology can replace a serious amount of workers, which makes it difficult because the businesses do not adopt these technologies, then their business will soon fall behind because they cannot keep up with competitors. So basically, these workplaces are trying their hardest not to fire their members because then they won't have enough employees to represent their unions.